Hospice Georgian Triangle is a not-for-profit organization, a charity here in Collingwood, and that services the South Georgian Bay region. We are an organization that began in 1987 with grassroots volunteers that decided that they wanted to improve the experience of people who were dying in our community, and from there it's just grown ever since. People often think of hospice, it sounds like a very final place, a place that you go and it may sound very gloomy and very depressing. And I think that folks who experience hospice have an exact opposite response, because when you walk in, the hospice is warm and it's compassionate and people are wanting to help you. And I mean, you'll have volunteers asking if you want tea, and family members and patients have said they feel really cared for. From the setup of the whole environment is like a regular kitchen and regular plates, and there's no meal service, and if you want to have ice cream for breakfast, you can have ice cream for breakfast. Whatever you want, we're trying to accommodate that, because really hospices is focusing on the here and now, right? We don't know what the future is going to bring. We can't change what's happened in the past, but we really can focus on what's going to make today perhaps a good day. From the rooms themselves, where you think about they're a room that's it's a suite, really. There's a nice comfy chair in there. There is a hospital bed, but it's very tastefully decorated. The Murphy beds are there so people can spend the night. So I think it's a very different experience than other parts of the healthcare system, because it is that home-like environment. One thing that's really happened, particularly with opening our downtown location, our services have really evolved. The folks that we support are much more complicated. So we've gone to a more professionally designated service model. We're employing registered psychotherapists, we have registered social workers, and so in addition to what we used to provide that was mostly a volunteer base, that was, for the normal grieving process, we're now seeing a lot more people with more complicated grief and bereavement needs and more complicated palliative care needs. So it just has meant that we've had to evolve and grow our services to meet the needs of the community. So one of the other support groups that we have is a specific spousal loss group. In grief and bereavement, but when people have a shared experience, they're often able to learn from each other and support each other. Another group that also is reflective of that is people that have been experiencing loss when a loved one has taken their own life. The children and youth groups are, again, we're trying to get some legacy works where they do things around looking at, maybe they would make cookies or do a recipe that was grandma's recipe, ways to work with the kids. And so these are some of the things we're developing, that we're growing at Hospice Georgian Triangle, and that the secondary location has certainly afforded us the space to do that.
So Hospice Georgian Triangle relies on more than 50% of funding from the generosity of the community. So more than 50% comes from donors, individual corporations, grants, and yet we are so grateful to everybody in our community who supports the work of hospice by giving it a gift. Hospice Georgian Triangle Foundation hosts 2 signature events every year. One is coming up on May 29th. We're so excited. It's called the Hike and Bike for Hospice, and it is a very highly anticipated community event. We have more than 500 participants who are hiking and biking for hospice. All the participants raise money towards the cause, and it is a beautiful day. It starts at 9 in the morning. There's a 6K walk, a 6K bike, and a 20K bike. So children are welcome. It's $35 to register, and with your registration, you get a beautiful T-shirt, a race kit, and a barbecue lunch that is sponsored by some of our corporate partners. There's lots of ways you can support hospice. One is by giving a one-time gift, which you can do through our website. You can also give in many other ways. You can give through volunteering. We have over 100 volunteers at hospice doing everything from reception work to gardening, to community support. We love our volunteers. We have a beautiful group of people called the Kitchen Angels who provide the food for people in hospice and their families, and help provide that beautiful home-like environment for people who are staying in the house. So many people don't realize why Hospice Georgian Triangle needs funds. As we talked about earlier, 50% is funded by the government, but we rely on community support for the other 50%. If it wasn't for the generosity of the community, we wouldn't be able to have community programs, and we have found that over the pandemic, we've had over a 54% increase in referrals to our community programs, including grief and bereavement counseling, support for children, educating educators in the classroom on how to deal with students who are experiencing loss in the classroom, and the list goes on and on and on. And it's only going to increase with time as our population grows and our population ages. There's going to be more of a need for this. So we constantly have to look for ways to support this beautiful organization that provides such a valuable service.